Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Healthy and Wealthy and Wise podcast, hosted by yours truly, Misty Magdalena Grace, also known as Magical Mags. I am an abundance alchemist, helping you alchemize fear into love, pain into purpose, scarcity or lack into abundance, so that you can live your best life, your best health, your best wealth, your best relationships by trusting your best wisdom within. Please enjoy the show, like and subscribe, and leave a review if you see value in this amazing show. And feel free to stay in till the end. You may have a surprise gift waiting for you on the other side of this episode. All right, welcome back. This is show number 3 today of my 5-year podcast anniversary celebration and celebrating and honoring Mary Magdalene Feast Day. And I am your host again, Magdalena Grace, celebrating 5 years today. It's hard to believe 5 years has flown by and almost 400 episodes, and it's just been a great journey. And today I am bringing all new guests, and I actually had a guest yesterday. We talked about being your own banker. So there's a nod to the wealth part of Healthy and Wealthy and Wise. We had Monty Shaw on earlier. We talked about health and wealth and expanded consciousness through tribe, through community and retreats, especially targeting my women's retreat in September. Then we just completed an amazing episode talking about relationships, dating, and specifically focusing more on men, but how men and women can come together through healing in their relationship. And then, of course, now we have Rachel Ruby, who we're going to talk about Divorce to Bliss. We will actually talk about how to date after divorce, which, since I'm newly divorced, I'll be taking extra notes on that. And then next hour we have my first ever topic talking about Tantra with Scotty O from Texas, a Tantra expert. So really excited to have new content, new beautiful faces and souls who are here to help heal the planet. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce you, Rachel. Rachel S. Ruby is right here in Southern California with me. When I heard about her Divorce to Bliss message, I was like, sign me up. I need to know this beautiful woman. She's a divorce coach, a speaker, attorney, and entrepreneur, and she's owned several businesses. She's a former law attorney, which I think is kind of cool, being in the divorce realm and being a certified divorce mediator as well. You've had a journey. You've gone through your own dark tunnel of divorce. I'm fresh out of that, so I know how painful that can be. And divorce rate is so high. And I know I have a lot of divorced people in the audience listening, and how you can really help people find bliss, joy, and your best life after divorce. What? Is that possible? So Rachel, I'd love for you to first start off by sharing your story.
Yeah. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I had you on my podcast and that was fantastic. So I love to return the favor, and it's great to be here today. So basically my story starts just like anyone else's. I was in a marriage for a very long time. I was married for 27 years, was with my former spouse for 30. And when we got together, we were very young. I got married at 25. So I was in law school, or I had just finished law school, and I had told him that I did not want to get married while I was in law school. So I had just finished the first year of law school thinking, okay, I've got 2 more years and then we can figure it out. But he proposed to me after that first year. So we had a 2-year engagement, and then we got married. So the marriage was beautiful. We were always very different. I was the academic, kind of the doer, and he was the artist. And so we went along and I loved at the time, because I was so surrounded all day long, both in law school and then when I started my career, with all these intellectuals who just wanted to talk about, intellectual things. And so when I'd come back home, I loved that he was this artist, and he worked from a different side of his brain, and it worked for a long time. We had a beautiful family, but there always felt like there was something that I wasn't getting, and I didn't really know what it was. And so fast forward many years later, I was really unhappy for the last years of my marriage, several years, maybe 3 or 4 years. And I felt unhappy within myself, but I was afraid to go there and figure out. I'm such a fixer, and I thought, oh, I'll fix it. It'll all work out, right? And then time just went by and I kept getting more and more unhappy. And so in 2019, I went on a trip to Thailand with my daughter, who is very spiritual. I'm very spiritual. She is probably 5 times more, 10 times more than I am. And that was the epiphany trip. There were so many signs. My intuition was just pinging the whole trip. And it was kind of like the universe had been trying to send me signs for years, and I was just pushing them away. And truthfully, I've always been an intuitive, but I kind of lost that for a while. I wasn't paying attention on purpose, probably because I didn't, or subconsciously because I didn't want to go there. And I finally, when I was in Thailand, it just like the light bulb went off, and I said, I need to leave my marriage. So it took about a year. I promised I would try to go to therapy and do all that for a year and really work on us to see if we could make it work. And at the end of that year, I said, I want a divorce. So that's my kind of story of how I came to that point. And then when I got to that point, it was scary. And I think, that's what most of us think of first is it's scary. It's different. We're losing something. It's like the death it's like the death, right? Of this relationship. I say it's like the we, and now you're this me. And a lot of people, especially in the long relationships like myself, they don't know what to do. They know they're supposed to heal. They just don't know how to start. So that was the beginning of my journey.
Wow. And forgive me, remind me again, how many years were you married?
27.
Wow. Yeah. And so having just, gone through divorce myself, I can relate to, I've grieved a lot of dead people in my time, but a divorce is like a living, breathing thing that you choose to end. This person's still alive. And especially when you have children together, there's memories, there's karma, there's shared bank accounts, there's like so many things that you have to disentangle from this 3D world, your central nervous system. And not to mention, I don't know about you, but the stigma around divorce is pretty negative,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yep. I want to talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
let's go there right away then, because I
Okay.
feel like especially there was a stat, and I'm curious if you can somehow weave this into your talking about the stigma. There was these things that were told to me right away, like, oh yeah, it's going to take, like, I forget what they said. It was like 4 years for every year you were married to recover. Like, I heard all this garbage, and I was kind of like, oh my God, no wonder a lot of people don't get divorced because of the
Yeah.
things that are being projected upon me right now. It sounded like a death sentence and just all this negativity.
Yeah.
My parents were divorced, so I was like, oh my God, am I just like a failure? So anyway, I'll let you take it from here.
Yes, you are right. I mean, so there is a lot we are subjected from the moment we can understand, from when we're little babies, by culture, religion, society, family, and we are given these kind of parameters by which we are supposed to fit in. It's kind of like sometimes it's the round peg and we're trying to jam the square peg into it, right? And we want to be good and we want to do the right thing, and we want to, study hard and work hard and get married and have the white picket fence and the 2.5 kids and all of that. And in some cultures, in some families, some religion, that's expected, right? And so we all kind of grow up not really aware of this, but now I think it's great because the younger generation is aware, more aware than at least than I was. But we all kind of are taught certain things by all of those forces. And so when we get divorced, a lot of time, I mean, divorce is still a stigma, like you said, in society, in most societies. And it's just now getting to the point where there are things such as conscious uncoupling, and ways to uncouple and not see it as something negative. But I think it's going to take time, and it's going to take maybe the dying off of, some older generations for that to become normal. But right now, it's still not for most people. I have a very open, wonderful, loving family and very accepting. And so I never felt shamed. A lot of my clients feel very shamed. They feel like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't be doing this. And Aunt Sally told me that, I'm going to, go to hell or whatever. And it's very, it's not expected in society. You're expected to get married and stay married for the most part.
Till death do us
So,
part. Yeah.
so the
Yeah.
interesting thing for me is when I made my decision to leave the marriage, I confided in a few people who were very close to me. And I happened to go on a walk with a neighbor of mine who had been wanting to go on a walk with me for a long time. I didn't really know her that well. Went on a walk with her. And during that walk, I let her know what was happening in my life. And she started going off about how God is going to come down on me, and I'll probably get some kind of an illness because I'm getting divorced, and that's not what God wants, and just on and on and on and on. And I looked at her, and so I think a lot of people might hear this and feel more shame, right? If they're already vulnerable, maybe in a victim state, they hear people saying these things and they go, oh my gosh, this is even worse than I thought. But I kind of looked at her because I'd been doing so much work on myself. And I said, my God wants me to be happy. I don't know what your God wants, but my God doesn't want me to leave my marriage and get sick and be unhealthy and have cancer and die. My God wants me to leave my marriage and realize my highest potential on this earth for myself so I could go on and do amazing things and help people and serve. And she kind of just looked at me like, and that was the last time I ever spoke with her. But so
Good
so
for
what
you. I'm gonna applaud you. That was amazing.
So I think one of the most important things and the hardest thing for people to understand until maybe they're getting some help, because the fact of the matter is you can't really do this on your own. Okay. And I did a lot of it on my own, but I also relied on a few people who were really, really close to me. And we can talk about that too, because there's a whole other
Yeah.
aspect of the support network that a lot of people think they have the right support network, but they really don't. But so you really have to learn that the only decision maker in this I mean, there's two of you, but you are the one who decides whether you are meant to stay in this relationship. And I don't think anyone should take it lightly and just get in a fight with someone and go, let's get a divorce. I think
Right.
there's a lot, that's why I gave a whole year to my former spouse to try to see if we could work on it. Because I owed that to the we, because we had been together 30 years. And so I felt I can't just walk away because, and he kept saying, well, you changed. And well, of course, we all change. We all change and grow. But sometimes you're going down this path and you kind of grow in different directions. And so I think a lot of divorces happen because people can't, you don't have to grow in the same direction, but you have to have respect. You have to hold space for the other person, for the way in which they're growing, and you have to listen and communicate. So I think if you're starting to go through this journey, you really want to listen to what's in here first, not what's being said out there in the ether by the people, even the people who love you. And then you need to learn how to set some boundaries with those people so you can listen to your heart and your intuition.
So beautiful. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, because a lot of us are, I think a lot of women, especially, but men too, they stay because they're afraid of what other people might think. And that's giving away your power. That's obviously not listening to your heart and your intuition, which you just stated so beautifully. So I think that's maybe a good segue to, we'll kind of, I think I'd like to, if possible, because I did this myself, how do you set boundaries and have and find the right support network when you're going through this decision and beyond?
Yeah. Yeah. So let's start with the support network because that's just so huge. And okay, so you probably have some people in your life, each one of us does, hopefully, you may not, who you can go to and talk about anything with, right? And maybe it's just someone who loves you. Maybe it's your mom, your aunt, your cousin, maybe it's your neighbor, or you have friends. And what I realized in my journey when I started going through it was that there were some people, even though they loved me and I loved them, that I could not continue to have as the supporters because they weren't supporting me in the right way. So the most important thing when you're vetting their support network and you're thinking of who is this small group of people whom I really trust, really love, they love me, they really care about me, is that a true supporter is going to listen to you and allow you to make your own choices. not tell you what they think you should do. So when you start thinking, I mean, and it might help to make a list of the people who you consider your support network. And by each one of them, if you can ask that question, would this person tell me what I should do? Have they done that in the past? Or would they honor me and respect me and love me and let me make my choice? And once you get the right people on your team, in your network, you are going to experience amazing healing. But if you have people like my neighbor who wasn't in my support network, but it's just an example, who are telling me, I'm going to be, a lightning bolt's going to strike me and I'm going to get cancer because I'm leaving my marriage, then that's not going to help me heal, right? So I think the first step is to really take a look at who your support network is.
Yeah. And I like what you said,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of projections. Everyone's going to give you advice, their opinions. I chose to tell my sisters, whom I love dearly, I said, because they were starting to do you should do this, and all these things were coming out, and they have different beliefs about kind of what you were referring to earlier about what God thinks about divorce. And we had it in our family. So their own
Mhm.
fears from experiences and other people's experiences with divorce were pretty bad. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this differently. Just leave me be. Don't talk to me. Just allow me. That was a boundary that I set up, because I found out that that wasn't the support that I needed or wanted for the duration of my divorce. And now I can open the door and say, hey, I'm amazing. I am the happiest divorced woman on the planet right now, and I'm ready to talk to you, and then they'll be
Yes.
like, what happened? You're not supposed to be so happy after divorce, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's great that you mentioned setting the boundaries, because that's the next thing. Obviously, if there's some people in your life that you can't just, I mean, I had to actually let go of a couple of people. And by that, I mean, I had to tell them that, I need to take a break from the friendship right now so that I can heal and make my own choices and figure out who I am and who I want to be moving forward. And that was really hard. It was really hard to do that. But the interesting thing is, one friend who I let go of, and haven't spoken to her since, interestingly enough, it's been almost 5 years. But I felt this, like this weight just lift off my shoulders within a day. And it's because, as wonderful as this friend was, there was a lot of negativity every time I spoke with this person. So everything was very Debbie Downer. And so it wasn't really so much not supporting me per se. It was more of just the energy that I felt from this person that would just bring me down, because I would spend the conversation trying to help the person get better, but I'm in the middle of my own healing, so I can't use all my energy trying to fix somebody else. And so when I realized that, I just I that was it, and it was the right decision for me. So, but with other people, you don't have to just cut them out. And I have, in my book, I have whole chapters about this. I've had podcasts about this. You can set boundaries, like you said, and you can tell those, for example, your Aunt Sally keeps telling you, like, oh, honey, I really don't think you should get a divorce. It's terrible. You're going to, whatever. You can say, look, Aunt Sally, I love you so much. And I am so appreciative you're in my life. Right now, what I need is to figure things out on my own, because this is my journey and I need to figure out what my choices are. So I'm going to respectfully ask that when we talk, you can ask me how I'm doing. You can ask me things about myself, but please don't offer advice unless I ask. And believe me, if I want advice, I will ask you, because I love you and I support you and I know you support me. And sometimes you have to remind them over and over again, but hopefully they will listen to that. And you can stop them if they start going down that path and say, hey, remember what I needed, and see if that works. And sometimes, unfortunately, people can't change and they won't stop doing that. And that's when you have to think, do I want to have this person in my life?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you talked about boundaries. You talked about basically speaking up for your truth and your needs. So I'd like to segue just a little bit, since we talk about health and wealth and expanded consciousness on this show. What have you seen with your clients and yourself, the health improvements or health challenges going through this divorce process? Anything that you care to share?
Sure. So, like I said in the beginning, as you know, divorce, even if it's an amicable divorce, which I had a little bit of that, mostly that, it's still torturous, and it's challenging, it's difficult, and we tend to get a lot of we start to feel a lot of very deep feelings, and a lot of them can be negative, and a lot of people that I speak with come to me in that victim, I call it the victim well. They're down in this well, and they're trying to get out, but they keep slipping and falling back down. They know they want to get out, but they don't know how. So we need to remember that all of these feelings usually they come from the past, from what we're going through. But the way that we can start getting out of there is through our mindset, changing our thoughts, tweaking our patterns. And a lot of times, again, you need help with this because it's very hard to figure out on your own. But there are little mindset shifts that you can try. And for example, when you start feeling like the whole world is against you, and I had a horrible day today. My ex called me and yelled at me, and I don't know where I'm going to live. I have to get kicked out of this place. Whatever it is. We all have this story that the universe is working against us. Things are happening to us, right? And so we want to transition to that place where things are happening for us, so that we can feel more positive and feel really good. That's when we start having these feel good feelings. So we can really start noticing when we go into these negative places that we can stop ourselves. Even if we do this once a day, pat yourself on the back. Start thinking a negative feeling, stop yourself, and turn it into something positive. I don't care who you are. If you're a prisoner, there's going to be something positive. The fact that you can think, you have your mind, right? So you want to start being grateful for little things every single day. When you wake up in the morning, oh, I'm grateful that I'm here. I'm grateful that I'm breathing. I'm grateful that the sky's blue, the birds are chirping, whatever it is. I know it sounds really corny, but you want to start practicing that, expressing that gratitude out loud, in writing, whatever it is. And eventually in time, those expressions, along with other things that you need to be doing, which if we have time, we can talk about, will make you start feeling better. And when you start feeling better, you're going to be able to move forward, and you're going to see that light at the end of the tunnel getting brighter.
No, that's beautiful. I would say if you have a couple more tips that would help them with mental, physical, spiritual, emotional health,
Mm.
let's go
Yeah.
for it.
So get outside. That's a big one. We can't just sit inside and feel sorry for ourselves. We need to get out. Even on the days that we don't want to get out, go outside, sit under a tree, walk by a body of water if you can, barefoot, preferably, to feel your closeness, your connection with the earth. Go do things that are different. Go, if you've always wanted to take a painting class, sign up for the painting class. I tell my clients, you need to pick one thing that you're going to sign up for to get you out of the house at least once a week. Go with your friends and go listen to some live music, go dancing, go hiking, just as much activity as you can fit into your schedule, and doing things differently. When we are stuck in the same pattern and we're sitting in our home every night watching Netflix and eating bonbons, we're just going to go deeper and deeper into that well, and we're not going to be healthy within our body either. So get outside, exercise, try fun things, be creative, do something you've never done, be with the people you love, and try to do this multiple times a week. The more you do it, the better you'll feel.
I love it. Yeah, having had a background in fitness and now working with a lot of those lower three chakras, that's where a lot of our
Yeah.
stagnancy hangs out, our digestive issues. We talked about that on the last couple episodes as well, just how our physical health is impacted by these highly, highly stressful,
Mm,
grief-filled experiences. So thank you for those
yeah.
reminders. And I think part of health, I'm going to segue into dating after divorce, because here's one of the biggest things I think I've heard with my clients, because I do a fair amount of grief work and recovery work, and a lot of women and men, but I work mostly with women. They don't recover after divorce, and they attract the same guy, different name, right? And they're also maybe afraid of tapping into their sexuality or their dating because they're afraid of the past and the fear of rejection and going back again and finding that same person. So I'd love any tips that you have on that.
Yeah, I'd love to get into that. But I want to mention one more thing. about the
Yeah.
health aspect. I think it's so important to eat healthy, what you put in your body. No alcohol, no drugs, just eat clean as you can. Try to make little changes, and that's going to help you feel better. And it's also going to prepare you for dating too, because it's going to give you more energy, make you feel great. So when it comes to dating after divorce, people make some big mistakes. And you mentioned the kind of the mother load of the mistakes, which is getting divorced, coming out of divorce, and just going, signing up on all those dating sites and just going out and dating. I tell them I didn't date for over 2 years. And I promised myself that I wouldn't date until I knew I felt ready to do it. And by ready, I mean feeling really good in myself, my inner beauty, my sensuality, my sexuality, my
Mm.
until every part of me had to be aligned so that I was ready to go out and attract the kind of partner I wanted. And what I did to start that, and you can do this at any time, even if you just got divorced, because this is going to morph and change. You can make a list of the qualities that are important to you in a partner. And again, I don't think the list you make right after you come out of divorce is going to be very different from the list you make after you do the work. But if you feel like you must go out and date, make this list and then realize that the person you want is going to be attracted to the person that you need to become first. And that's
Mm.
why we do the work. And like you said, if you go right out and date, and not to different, blame or say, but a lot of men do this, because especially men who have been married longer, more so than women. And there's actually research on this, that they will literally fly the coop of the marriage, and bam, they're out there sleeping around, going on dates, and they haven't done the work on themselves. So it is, you're just going to attract the wrong person. And even if
Mm.
you get into a relationship and you haven't done the work, the chances are very high that it's not going to work out, and you'll be right back where you started. So save yourself the time, the aggravation, the frustration, and work on you. Get someone to help you so you can find that person. And when you get to the point where you are ready to date, and a lot of my clients say, well, how do I know that? You'll know. You'll just know. You'll just be feeling great. You'll start thinking about it. You'll be out maybe at the grocery store and you'll see somebody, go, oh, and you'll have your list and you've done your work, and you will, and believe me, because I know this from fact, I attracted a completely different partner, and somebody who compliments me and it basically checks off every single box, which I tell people, don't expect that, but he does. So it's, you really, you really can have a beautiful relationship after divorce, but you need to have the relationship with yourself first.
Yeah, amen. And that's so good for your health. And I know I think it was in it was either Conscious Uncoupling or the Spiritual Divorce, where they said don't do I'm just gonna say it, a fuck you to your partner and all of a sudden get into the best, sexiest shape of your life to spite them. Do it for
For
you
you.
and your future self and your
Yeah.
future partner, right? That's gonna really raise your vibration and attract someone for the right reasons too.
Yeah. And I have to say that when I first started doing the work, which was before I left the marriage, and then, after the marriage ended and he moved out, I was walking about 6 miles a day. I just started walking. I don't know. And that's when I cleared my head. That's what started getting me feel better. I was outside with my dog, and, trees everywhere, or I'd be on the beach, wherever I was. I was doing so much walking, and I actually ended up dropping 20 pounds. And I started feeling really good. I threw away all my clothes because I had gained weight at the end of my marriage. I never had a problem with weight in my life, but I did not look like myself. And yeah, and I felt so good when all of a sudden one day I got on the scale and I said, "Oh my gosh." And then it just kept dropping, dropping, dropping. And I was eating healthy. I I think I was eating very small portions, but and I was shedding. I call shedding. I was just,
Mm.
I held stress on my stomach, so I was going to the bathroom a lot, but I was just I started feeling really happy. And when I got to that point, that dating point where I was like, I'm ready, I felt really sexy. I felt beautiful. I hadn't felt that in
Mm.
years. So, it's it all kind of contributes. It's all like a circle, like a catch, or yeah, like a complete circle. You're exercising, you're outside, you're maybe you with people you love or with an animal, and um you the walking or the exercise stimulates your thought processes, so you're not as stuck, and that helps you to work on more healing. So it's all really good.
Amen to that. Yeah, I
Mhm.
not to be too gross, but I had the same thing. I had to reach out to my I had to call my Kundalini yoga teacher in Ayurvedic medicine. I've been having diarrhea for like 30 days. Everything's coming out of every orifice. I had bacterial vaginosis. I had all sorts of things. And I started looking really old, like a haggard woman. And then the good news was there's a point to my story on the other side of it because I was shedding. I was just finally my central nervous system said, oh, okay, she's not holding on for dear life anymore. We can just be. And then the body had kept the score through the marriage, you know, my stuff, his stuff, no blame or shame or anything here. It was all divinely orchestrated to help me wake up and really like that we talked about on when I was on your show, the spiritual awakening that can come with
Yeah,
it, the spiritual health and remembering and truly being in your bodied goddess self, right, is where you got to, and you're
yeah.
beautiful.
Oh, yes, and as are you, thank you. But so true, when you start working on the physical and you start working on the emotional, you start to open up the road to the spiritual. And I was always very spiritual, but I think I mentioned to you on my podcast that I realized when I started taking everything apart, in the end of the marriage, that I had locked my inner child away in the closet for a long time. I'd become very stoic, very serious, very, and when I realized that and I started letting her out, I was dancing in my living room every night, just things like that, got back into yoga again. I mean, I felt, and meditation, of course, that was a saving grace. But all those things just really brought my intuition back in full force and made me feel really good. And it just, it's like the beautification of you, really, when you go down this pathway.
Yeah, beauty from the inside out, and you're living, speaking, embodying your truth. Let's transition. Any other tips on the dating before we talk a little bit about the money and the wealth side of divorce?
Yes. So when you do start dating, I really want you to, you'll meet people, and I really want you to pay attention to what your heart is saying, what your intuition is saying. If you're sitting there talking to somebody, for example, and he says something like, well, I don't want a relationship. Listen to your intuition. There are red flags. I dated a couple red flag men. And at the time, I was just having fun. I wasn't looking to get into a relationship. I just was having a great time. And so some of them I just kind of like, okay, it can be someone to have fun with for a bit, but you really want to listen to what's coming from inside. Um, Very important. And don't think you can change anyone. That's not true because you just got out of a relationship. So work on just really knowing that you are valuable, you are worthy, and you should and can have a beautiful relationship with somebody. But trust your judgment.
That's beautiful. Yeah, you want to learn from past mistakes, not repeat them, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think it's fascinating that you were, you know, a former family law attorney and certified divorce mediator. If memory serves, you're actually getting back into that a little bit more. Am I right?
Yes. So the family law divorce mediator thing was a long time ago, and I haven't
Okay.
practiced law in a while. I do have another business that requires me to kind of be my sharpest, and the background really helps me with that. But I am going to I might be getting back into mediation, in a different form, a type of mediation. But I'm excited because this kind of, it's like this full circle. So we'll see what happens. I mean, it's just, if it's meant to be, it's going to happen. I've been talking to some people, and uh, I'll be excited to add that to my list of all the millions of things that I try to accomplish.
Well, and I mean, you know me, I'm one part sales coach, one part medicine woman, one part yogi. So what I'm seeing a trend in the world right now is a lot of us are bringing our masculine and our feminine energies together to be of service at a deeper, more encompassing level. So I don't look at anyone, yourself or myself, as a jack of all trades. We have all of this knowledge and this beautiful witchy cauldron of experience. Why not be of service? And especially with the planetary awakening that's happening right now, we got to have those feminine and masculine energies to help people, I feel. And so given your background, what have you seen? The biggest thing that they say divorce happens a lot of times. The number one reason is financial, but then there's also the financial recovery piece. And I know some women don't divorce because they're afraid to be financially independent. So there's all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
That can really mess with our human heads and our hearts when it comes to money. There's a saying, for love or money. When you can have both, it's just, how do you get there? So any advice for a woman who's newly divorced about wealth consciousness?
Yes. Find a great health and or wealth mentor. And I know a few, they've been on my podcast, and find somebody who can help you just look at your everyday expenses, look at your goals, and make a plan. It doesn't matter if you feel like you have nothing, if you're working or you're trying to find a job and you have goals, you have things you want to do. Maybe you want to buy a house, maybe you want to put money away for retirement, whatever it is. Find somebody who can help you make a plan, because I really don't think you can do it yourself unless you are inclined in that way to know what to do with your money. And do I invest it? Do I, put it towards a property? What do I do? And so there's a wonderful woman I interviewed in my podcast, and that's what she does. She helps a lot of newly divorced women to figure out how they can create a plan and move forward. And I think that is a really good investment of your time and energy, because it alleviates a lot of the fear. I mean, financial fear is one of the two biggest. Financial fear and the fear of being alone are what I hear is the two biggest fears from people going through divorce, especially women. So if you can alleviate that financial fear, and then you do the work and the healing, that's going to alleviate being alone, because you're going to actually enjoy being alone. Hopefully, if someone's helping you in the right way, and then you're alleviating all the fear of being divorced. And all you have to do is heal yourself, and everything you want will come to you.
Yeah, I always say it on this show, as within, so without. And so once you heal and fall in love with yourself, it just makes it, so much more possible to find new love again, but then also have the financial independence, because our society has programmed most of us women to depend on men for money. Even if we have our own careers, there's the whole glass ceiling and just a lot of programming that us as women are rising above, which I actually think is a gift of divorce and the gift of what's happening right now. So many women are like, no, wait, I know there's stats being shared that a lot of women younger than us, like I forget if it's 25 to 40, they're not getting married and they're not having, children. They're changing the paradigm. And I don't see it as a bad thing. I see it as kind of like a liberation thing. Don't you think?
I mean, in some ways, it really depends on the person and what their goals are. And yes, if I were a young person at this time, I don't know. I don't know what I would. I mean, we don't know that unless we're there, right? When I was a young person, when I got married, I wanted the career, but I wanted the family too. I wanted to be a mom, and there's a lot of young people who are choosing not to have children now. So I think, yeah, it can be healthy. It just really depends on the people and to whom you're in a relationship with, and what you want, or if you're going to get into a relationship, what you're looking for. I mean, you really have to kind of dive into you to figure out what you need. And if you do that, and you can do anything.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Before we start to wrap it up, is there anything else on your heart that you'd like to share that you haven't today yet to my Healthy and Wealthy and Wise audience?
Oh gosh, there's just so many steps to healing, and everybody's individual. So that's why I think it's really important to work with somebody who can help you to break up the steps and make a plan, so you don't feel overwhelmed by all the things that you need to do, should do, want to do, because a lot of people will start down that path on their own and then they'll quit and they'll give up and then they'll get more back into a victim state and feeling negative. And it's really great to have someone in your corner who can guide you and support you and be with you every step of the way.
Yeah. And I know you and we both have a lot of great resources. So just before I get to my final questions for you, Rachel, I'm going to draw, as I have the past 2 hours, from my Divine Feminine Oracle deck, honoring Mary Magdalene, my sister, my master guide, my soul sister, the greatest teacher that helped me heal and prepare me for divorce and has carried me through it in the spiritual realm. So let's see who comes through here during Rachel's show. Wow. 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 I can't make this stuff up. All right. So this is Mirabai. If you haven't heard of her, just Google Mirabai, Mirabai. I'm just going to read her mantra and what she stands for sake of time. You can get the Divine Feminine Oracle deck if you want to study all of the Divine Mothers. She's called the Saint of True Freedom. Love is what sets me free. Freedom was my year of the word with my divorce. Love is what sets me free. I am married to my own soul. Isn't that perfect? I'm going to read that one more
time. That is so perfect.
Love is what sets me free. I am married to my own soul. So as we talk about divorce, as we talk about falling in love with yourself, as we talk about taking care of you, figuring out what you want, and really just having that healing time, like you said, to really rediscover yourself as a divorced woman. Ben, to your point with the name of your book, your podcast, Divorce to Bliss is possible.
It is. Thank you.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. So just some announcements. If you've been on my other 2 episodes today, these are my free gifts and also upcoming events. So if you catch this on the 22nd or 23rd of July, my cutoff is midnight of the 23rd, and you comment below, you share the episode, I'll put you in a drawing. If you're local, I have an Abundance Blueprints workshop, transformational workshop, Kundalini Yoga, cacao, and sunset dinner at my Healing Sanctuary in Fallbrook. You can win, but you got to comment below and share. Sharing is caring. You might just impact a life by sharing this episode. I'll put you in that drawing, and I'll let you know by the morning of the 24th is when I'm going to do the drawing. And then if you're not local to San Diego or you can't get here by Friday afternoon, I'll give you a free abundance alchemy session on me in honor of my 5-year anniversary and for your support. I was just named in the top 10 psychedelic podcasts this year for the year of 2025. So even though I don't talk a ton about psychedelics, it's more about health, wealth, and expanded consciousness. And there's many ways we can do that. We even talked about some of them today. Just really appreciate all of my viewers, listeners, and for taking the time to like and subscribe this show. More people need to hear Rachel's message. So if you know someone who's going through divorce, if you know someone who's still maybe even years later hasn't recovered, Rachel's a great resource for all of these elements of getting through and growing into bliss. And then if you're a woman and you want to turn your grief into gold, your scarcity and lack into abundance, your pain into your purpose, I have a retreat here in San Diego, September 8th, 9th, and 10th, right after the full moon eclipse on September 7th, right through the 9/9 portal. The 9 is a 9-year. This is the year of the snake. It's all about shedding. We talked about shedding. So it supports, it's not just for women going through divorce, it's women who are wanting to step into their goddess, divine feminine self. We're going to be doing a lot of embodiment practices, a lot of healing, a lot of shedding, and a lot of holding, and talking about sacred sexuality, relationships, dating, the whole gamut, and just healing you mind, body, and soul. So go to magdalenagrace.com if you want to check out that retreat. Early bird discount expires July 31st. And last announcement, if you have questions for me or about the retreat, please just go ahead and email me info@magdalenagrace.com. So that was enough for my announcements. Just wanted to close, Rachel, with a final question that I asked all of my first time guests, and I definitely will have you back sometime in the next year. But when you hear the phrase healthy and wealthy and wise, what does it mean for you?
Oh, wow. It is life. That is what we all should aspire to be: healthy, wealthy, and wise. And wisdom comes from many places, but when you're going through something like divorce, you do gain a lot of wisdom about yourself. So I love that: healthy, wealthy, and wise. I think um, we all should want all of those, and when we attain them, we can be the best version of ourselves that we can possibly be.
Awesome. And we are all so deserving, right? We are all deserving
Mhm.
of that. So
Yeah.
thank you for your wisdom and for being one of my first
Mm.
guests on my
Mm.
new bright and shiny 5 years strong podcast. And I'll also put the episode link to my show on your podcast. I'll put all of your links inside of the show notes so people can find
Great.
Rachel. And is there any other places you want them to discover you? So I make sure I add that to the show notes.
No, but just on my website, there is, you can download a free report on the top 10 mistakes people make when they're going through divorce, just to kind of give you some insight. So,
Mm.
um, feel free to log in and download that. And happy anniversary, and thank you so much for having me. It's really been a pleasure. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll have you back again. And if you're watching me live, or if you're wanting to find out, the next episode is about Tantra, Scotty O. Scotty, as O stands for orgasm. So I'm really excited to be having this conversation after this conversation about divorce, and just talking about deeper richness in life, whatever that looks like for you. So until next time, everyone, here's to your best health, your best wealth, your best relationships, by trusting that best wisdom within. Bye bye for now.